Hi, it's Lucy, and today I'm here to do a video on every book I've ever DNF'd. Why, you may ask? I don't know, I just felt like doing it. So I've seen a couple of people do videos about like the books they've recently DNF'd, and I realized I never did a video like that. And I also don't DNF books that often because I just don't. I feel like I'm pretty good at choosing which books I'll enjoy. I tend not to DNF books that often. For a while it was because I actively did not DNF books. I almost never DNF books before I joined BookTube because it was just something in me told me I had to finish every book I started. So yeah, so the majority of these are after I started BookTube, and also my Goodreads literally goes back to 8th grade, so this is literally every book I've ever DNF'd. I'm just showing off the books that are on my Goodreads DNF shelf. If you're ever curious about how I feel about certain books, or if you ever just want to see my Goodreads shelves, I do try and keep them somewhat organized, then you should definitely check out my Goodreads, link down below, self-promo. After this, I think I'm going to try and do a books I DNF'd video every 6 months or so, so one at the end of the year and one halfway through the year. Hi, it's Lucy from the future, here to correct a few things, or just note some things. You should know that I originally filmed this video in like May or June. It is currently October, so yeah, this is an old video. All of the stuff I said in it is up to date and everything. I actually haven't DNF'd any book after I filmed this, so it's still up to date. So the reason I'm inserting my clip in here is because I just said, oh, I'm gonna try and do one of these videos every 6 months. I mean, maybe I will try and do one sometime in January, I guess, but it won't really be even. I mean, I could DNF like 5 books in the next 3 months of the year, but seems unlikely. So just wanted to put that warning out there and also let you guys know that this video slash footage is old, but it's still up to date and I look cute, so I'm putting this video up. So let's just get into the books. I'm going in chronological order, so the first book I have on the shelf to the latest book I DNF'd. So first we have Ouran High School Host Club Volume 1. So this is a manga, actually. I don't actually read a lot of manga now, or any manga. I didn't read manga when I DNF'd this. I apparently DNF'd this in 2013. Like I said, my Goodreads goes back a long time. The reason I was reading this was because I watched the anime for Ouran High School Host Club, and I really like that. It's one of my favorite cartoons, anime. It's the only anime I've ever watched straight through. So yeah, I really like that. I think I did a video about my favorite cartoons a while ago, 3 years ago. So I'll leave that linked in the cards if I did do that. I definitely had an idea for that, but I don't remember if I did it. It just didn't work for me. I didn't think, I loved the show. The manga just didn't match up for me, and I also wasn't used to reading manga, so I just didn't feel like reading it. I think I got maybe 10 pages in, and I was also really confused on how to read manga, or this specific manga, because I know you're supposed to read it back to front, but I didn't know if you're also supposed to read it left to right. And I was really confused on what was going on. I really recommend the anime. The series follows a girl named Haruhi. I'm not Japanese. I don't speak Japanese, please forgive me, who switches to a new school, which is a rich private school. She gets a scholarship because she's not rich, and she ends up walking into a room by accident, and she accidentally knocks over an 8 million yen vase, which is a lot of money. The club who owns that vase is called the Host Club, and they decide that she can pay off breaking the vase by joining their club and becoming a host, which is a person. Basically, everyone at the school thinks she's a guy because she has short hair, and so she joins the host club and pretends to be a guy so that she can pay off her debt to the host club. It's just all the crazy antics. Like I said, I don't watch anime, but I know it makes fun of a lot of tropes in anime, and it makes fun of a lot of tropes in life, and it's just so funny and ridiculous. So I really recommend the show. Couldn't get into the manga. Next we have a few classics. We have Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I remember DNFing this or trying to read this sometime in high school, maybe I was a freshman in high school, and I remember getting 100 pages in and deciding I was done. I was really bored. I didn't really know where the book was going. It just seemed so repetitive, and I was only 100 pages in, so I just didn't think it was going to get better. Catch-22 is set during World War II, and it's about a captain in a squad. I don't know if this came up with the term Catch-22 or if it popularized it or what. Basically, Catch-22 is no matter what you do, you can't win. So in this situation, you can't leave the army unless you do something. I don't remember everything, but basically everyone who's in the squad wants to leave the army, but because of something, they can't leave the army. There's a Catch-22 where you can't really leave unless something happens, but if that thing happens, then it's bad for you. I don't remember what it was. This is a really bad synopsis, I'm sorry. Next we have Oliver Twist, which is actually not a conscious DNF, but I've just decided I'm probably never gonna read it. And Oliver Twist, if you don't know, is a book by Charles Dickens. It follows a boy named Oliver Twist who is an orphan, and we follow him as he's trying to like live his life without like family or anything, and we see all the characters he meets along the way. And it has a lot of adaptations. Well, all of Charles Dickens' books are pretty popular, but it's definitely the most popular one, or one of the most popular ones. I don't know how far I got into this, but the reason I DNF'd it was I was actually reading it on a train, and I remember sitting on the train and then the conductor announcing basically that I was on the wrong train. Like he was like, I thought I was on one train and then he announced it was a different train. So I freaked out because my train was supposed to like leave, and I guess I must have put the book down and I didn't pick it up when I ran off the train. I didn't realize until I got on the right train and went to go read it and realized I didn't have it anymore. And that was a library book, which sucked because then I had to pay for it. It was like an old paperback, so it was like $12, but I was still in high school, so it was a lot of money. So I just never finished it. I planned to finish it, but I just never did, and now I don't really have as much interest. I might get into it one day again, but probably not. And that leads us into the next book that I DNF'd, A Tale of Two Cities, also by Charles Dickens. And I was really trying to get into Charles Dickens at the time, I think, or like somewhere around that time. And since I didn't finish Oliver Twist, I decided to give this a shot, and I feel like I got super duper far in. Like I was definitely at least 3/4 of the way through, like definitely further, like maybe 80 or like 85% of the way through. Like I was almost finished with the book. I was listening to the audiobook and I realized that I did not remember anything that had happened in the book at all, and I was still confused, and I was like, I can't mark this finished. I don't know what's going on. So I decided to put it down, and I didn't really want to start over. It would have been a 3-star book from what I remember, and obviously something was going on since I didn't remember anything that happened, so I just never went back to it. If you don't know, A Tale of Two Cities, the synopsis is a doctor who's being held as prisoner in the Bastille goes back to his home city to his daughter, who is like courting two suitors, one an exiled French aristocrat and another disreputable English lawyer, and we follow kind of those two people. The next few books aren't as popular. These are both books that I got for review via NetGalley. The first book is The End of Fun by Sean McGinty. This takes place in like the slight future where there's like an augmented reality game called Fun, and basically it's like contacts that get inserted into your eyes where you like can augment reality, but apparently the game is like really glitchy and dangerously addictive. So the main character wants to get off of Fun, but he has to like fulfill his contract because I think he was like a beta tester or something. I don't quite remember. Also, his grandfather dies and he has to like dealing with his will and his sister and like his family and stuff. This is not a good explanation. I'm really sorry. I made it 45% of the way through before I decided to DNF, and I DNF'd it mostly because I was bored. This sounded like similar to Ready Player One, but it's not, first of all. And looking back, Ready Player One wasn't as good as like I thought it was at the time, but whatever. But yeah, it wasn't that. The whole time I was reading it, I felt like nothing exciting happened, and I was getting bored of waiting for something exciting to happen. I also found the main character insufferable. His grandfather had just died and he cared not at all, it seemed like. The world building I found incredibly lacking. At first reading the synopsis, I thought it was like a near future setting. And then at first reading the book, it seemed almost post-apocalyptic because at one point there was a mention of like a lot of people dying and like some kind of event, but that was never mentioned again. The like lowered population wasn't really mentioned. And the rest of the settings just seemed like a regular contemporary setting. So I was really confused and I just didn't want to read it anymore. I was tired of waiting for it to become interesting. The Sky Between You and Me by Catherine Aline. This is about a girl who had recently lost her mother, and so she's dealing with that grief, and she's also going to like nationals for horse riding. And so along with the grief and for training with the sport, she's also started to develop an eating disorder, it seems like. I didn't make it very far into this. I didn't write down exactly how far I made it into, but in my memory, I can't have been more than like 10 or 15%. I just didn't find the writing compelling or the story compelling. And then I think I looked at some of the reviews and they all said basically the same thing, so I just decided to put it down. The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall. This is the first book in a trilogy about Avery, a girl who discovers she's actually part of the Circle, which is basically the Illuminati. Like they control everything. They can easily start a bombing if they wanted to and start a war or like shut down Prada or anything like that. They're basically the Illuminati, and the family of the circle thinks that Avery, the main character, has something to do with an ancient prophecy. So it's about Avery learning about what the circle is, what the prophecy is, like what she has to do with it. The synopsis sounded really intriguing. Like, I love mess, and it seemed like kind of a messy book. It seemed like a fun read to me, like it was going to be, but I ended up getting to page 118, which I think was like about a third of the book, and I put it down because I was just bored, and I didn't think the writing was very good. I've heard like mixed things about the series since then, but I don't regret putting it down. I think maybe it would have been a fun series if I could have gotten past the writing, but I just could not. Unrivaled by Alison Noel. This is the first book in the Beautiful Idols series. Maybe it's a trilogy, I don't know. Alison Noel wrote the Evermore series, which was not a good series, but I loved it when I was younger. It was basically sort of like Twilight. And when I was like a freshman / sophomore in high school, I loved that series. So I was like, yeah, let's just give this a try. It's probably not going to be the best written series, but I thought I would have fun reading it. But no. This follows 3 teenagers who are like trying to make it big in Hollywood. And somehow they all like come together after this like actual famous person goes missing, and somehow they all have something to do with it or have to try and figure out what happened to her. And yeah, so like I said, it was not as fun of a read as I wanted it to be. I felt like the book took itself too seriously for what it was. Like looking back, it kind of reminds me of the Thousandth Floor trilogy, but this, like, it just felt like too serious. I don't know, it didn't feel right. The writing felt off, and I felt like the way the characters talked and acted felt off, and I wasn't feeling any attachment to them, so I decided to just put it down. I made it 44% of the way through the book, so I felt pretty confident that I wasn't going to enjoy the rest of the book. Auntie, Poldi, and the Sicilian Lions by Mario Giordano and translated by John Brown John. Okay, I received this book from Bookish First in exchange for an honest review at the time, and yeah, I was not a fan. Basically follows Auntie Poldi, who retired to Sicily. The whole book is set in Italy, and she retires to Sicily, and her gardener ends up going missing, and so she decides to take it upon herself to figure out what happened to him. At this point, I started rating my DNFs. I don't always rate DNFs, but I feel like depending on the book, I do. Like, if I think it's like an important book or anything, or like if I just don't care, I won't rate it. But if I want to actually warn people away from the book, I will rate it. Or if I just feel like I read enough of the book to warrant a rating, then I'll read it. So this one, I ended up giving 3 stars for the part that I did read. I think I made it to like 100 pages in. I thought that this was going to be like a fun murder mystery, but it was just really boring. I thought we were just gonna follow Auntie Poldi the whole way through, but there was like a lot of other stuff going on where we like followed her family members and stuff who like all had opinions about Auntie Poldi, and I just didn't care about what they had to say. I really just wanted to see how the murder mystery was going. But where I was at, we literally had just found out the gardener had died, and that was like almost a third of the way through, I think. So I was just not really feeling it. 806 by Cynthia Weil. I received this from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. I also rated this one and I gave it 2 stars. This basically follows 3 teenagers who find out that they were conceived as a result of a sperm donor, and they decide to go on a road trip to find their sperm donor. I actually did like a full review on this because I was so mad. I DNF'd this at 41% of the way through, and yeah, like I said, I gave it 2 stars. I did not enjoy any part of the 40% that I read. All of the dialogue was super awkward. I found the plot to be very convenient, and the characterizations were shallow at best. A lot of the stuff in it was like super weird that I just could not get behind. I don't know if it was trying to be campy and fun, but it just read super awkward. One of the main character's best friends was a guy who like continuously professes his love to her, and it's like super weird. Like, he would sit outside of her bedroom to like bask in her glory, and when she goes on the road trip with the other 2 people who they discover they have the same sperm donor, they realize they're being followed by someone in the car, and she looks out the window and realizes it's her best friend who secretly wanted to try and follow her on the road trip for no reason whatsoever. It was super weird, but the book treated it like it was endearing, but it's just creepy. Why is that your friend? Like I said, the book is basically about a road trip to get to their sperm donor, and one of the other two characters literally wants to find the sperm donor because they want to stay with him, which is insane. That's not how sperm donors work at all. And you're not really even supposed to know where they live most of the time. Being a sperm donor does not make them their parent or anything. And that was just like a super weird thing to include in a book. The book did not seem ready to explore that at all. And I did end up like spoiling myself for the ending because I wanted to see how it happened. First of all, they meet the sperm donor like in the middle of the book. I think like right after I stopped reading, they would have met him, but I stopped reading. And the rest of the book is them getting to know him, and it's like super weird. and I don't know, I just don't think it was too weird. Paranormalcy by Kirsten White. Yeah, this is the first book in probably a trilogy. It basically follows a girl who works for the International Paranormal Containment Agency. Basically, in this world, there are paranormal creatures that exist in the world, like in the same place, and like regular people, I think, can't see them, but the main character can. And so she's taken by the agency to like go hunt, not really hunt, but like take care of like paranormal creatures who aren't like following the rules and stuff. I DNF'd this book at like 11%. I did not make it very far, but it just did not seem like the type of book I was going to enjoy. It definitely seemed like a product of the time, of like a paranormal book. I think this was written in like 2010, 2012, 2010. So it just seemed like a product of its time, and I just have outgrown that phase in my life, so I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. And the last book that I've ever DNF'd is The Everlasting Rose by Danielle Clayton. This is the second book in the Bells, I guess, duology now, and it takes place after the first book, The Bells, which I actually really enjoyed. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one I gave 2.5 stars. I DNF'd it at about 75% of the way through, and yeah, that's pretty far in a book to DNF something, but I just could not keep going. Where I felt The Bells really shined was with the world building and the opulent world of Orleans. I thought that was so cool, but this book kind of did not really do anything to expand on it, and kind of did not do anything to like even encourage it, I guess. I was really interested in learning more about the Bells and like their powers and stuff, and in this book, the Bells all of a sudden have a new power that is given with no explanation, and it's super convenient, and it felt off. I felt that the plot and character development were both super duper rushed. As far as I know, this series was supposed to be a trilogy, but for some reason it was turned into a duology. I don't know if Danielle Clayton herself decided she didn't want to do a third book, or if the publishers were like, no, I don't know what happened. But I think that probably had something to do with the feeling of rushness that the book had. I found the main characters' relationships with other characters to be unbearable. I just didn't feel like I was shown the feelings they all claimed to have for each other. They all claimed to like love each other, but their actions didn't really say that to me. And yeah, I don't want to say too much because this is the second book and the last book in the series, and I don't want to spoil anything, but just know this book was a super letdown for me. And yeah, I was really disappointed. Those are all the books that I have DNF'd. And like I said, I'm probably going to do another video like this towards the end of the year or towards the beginning of next year. And yeah, that's all I have to say. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any opinions about any of the books that I mentioned in this video, did you DNF them? Did you not DNF them? Why did you finish them? What did you enjoy about them? Let me know all of those things in the comments down below. Let me know what was the most recent book that you DNF'd, or if you don't DNF books, let me know why, or tell me if you do DNF books. Literally, just tell me anything in the comments. Did I say if you like this video, give it a like? I don't remember. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel because I make more videos where I talk about books. And if you've made it this far in this video, then I think you can handle the rest of my videos, so why not subscribe? And hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time I do post a video. I post once a week. Follow me on my social media. I have Twitter and Goodreads. They're both linked down below in the description box. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.